Hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever tickles your fancy, my fellow colleagues. Did you know, for the longest time, we've known about technology that can not only advance scientific pursuits, but also find breakthroughs in medical research. This technology is a replication of human cells, or also known as cloning. There is a problem though. Too many people out there look at this idea with closed minds and are outraged when hearing about this topic because they believe it is immoral and believe all the misconceptions. Luckily, we are all sensible people and have an open mind to listen to the facts. The main reasons why cloning should be allowed is the replication of organs or organic cells can be converted for human use. It can produce a greater understanding of the causes of miscarriages and such other birth defects. Cloning can virtually wipe out the issues that surround the conception of a child, and the technology could be used to repair damages in the nervous system. Before I can call out all the opposition to cloning, let's get down to the nitty-gritty facts. The method to go about replicating organic cells to be converted for human use would go like this. DNA would be taken out of a person in need and inserted into an egg that has been enucleated. The egg would then start to split and transform into any type of tissue that could be harvested. The cells would generate an organ that is a genetic match to the patient. Theoretically, this would work because the body doesn't necessarily reject anything so long as the genes in such organ matches the hosting body. The end result is the patient feels better, and in the long run, the waiting list for transplant patients will greatly decrease. When you really think about it, it really is just making copies of a key. Let's look at another point, shall we? Miscarriages are, as you all know, spontaneous abortions that occur when the body rejects the fetus. Physicians and scientists agree that the problems in chromosomes of the embryo cause more than half of miscarriages occurring in the first 13 weeks. Most chromosomal problems happen by chance and have nothing to do with the parents. Through cloning, scientists can find genetic matches that can counteract with the rejection of the fetus. Another technique could be to replicate the egg, mainly because it is believed miscarriages don't occur in a short period of time. This means when one egg is rejected, there is still another fertilized human egg that survives. Another suggestion is to create an egg entirely from the mother's DNA in order to pass through the bodies that exist, resulting in childbirth. The techniques shown here can be applied for the treatment of the nervous system whenever it dysfunctions. Basically, using the host DNA, cells can be programmed and replicated to fit whatever need is required for the human host. Now we move on to the opposition of cloning. There are two main groups who oppose such procedures. They are the general public themselves and other scientists. The general public sees cloning as a procedure that bastardizes the natural process, and it is truly immoral to create something to play God, if you will. And scientists, on the other hand, they believe that the failure rates are too risky because 95% it does result in failure. And both groups agree that only the rich and powerful will have such access to that kind of technology. For those worried that only the rich and powerful would get their hands on such technology, well, a solution to this would be to have government regulations, to put very strict regulations on who gets this kind of technology, and reserving such innovation for people who are on the waiting list for a transplant, for a heart, for a liver, for any organ they need. This kind of technology is for them. All the processes that were shown could replicate such organs, even skin, even brain cells, nervous tissue, anything like that could be replicated and transplanted into these patients that so desperately need it. And to the scientists that are afraid of the 95% failure rate, I am very surprised at these people because, if anything, science is all about making mistakes and learning from them. Science has always been followed by risk, and it will always be followed by risk. The only way scientists can get better at these procedures is to simply be allowed to learn and experiment with such technologies so they can become masters of their craft. The Vanguard rocket of 1957 is a perfect example of human beings learning from their mistakes. When the rocket was launched, it exploded on the launch pad, costing NASA millions of dollars. From this, scientists learned from such mistakes and recreated rockets to what they are today.
Beacon and Pioneer 2 were also considered unsuccessful experiments. A beginning has been made of which we may well be proud. We are, however, only just over the threshold. Much research, re-evaluation, and work lies ahead for us. The United States is aware of the magnitude of the challenge and aware that it must be fully met.
So in a sense, we have no idea what we can find through cloning, what kind of innovations we would discover, and what kind of new technology would enhance our living today. So in order to see such innovations, we shouldn't be afraid of failure and should look at these challenges head on and pursue them as they should be. President Obama recently overturned former President Bush's policy that denied funding to stem cell research. At that moment, he proclaimed that cloning had no place in our society, because to him cloning procedures involve killing human embryos to harvest cells. But there is one major contradiction, and this goes out to the people who believe that cloning is murder. The material can be used from patients without killing anything, and the technology shown here showed no signs of suppressing life at all. Murder is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as committed with malice and a forethought, characterized by deliberation and premeditation. The definition is quite different than a failed experiment. Cloning should be allowed because the benefits are infinite, and so are the possibilities of what we could discover with this technology. Should the day come when scientists are allowed to research human cells, the future looks bright for any and all of the general public. Despite it all, cloning contains innovations that can save millions of lives all over the world once those arguments and fears are thrown away.